little bit tonight about Barack Obama, and I won't go on too long, because I believe he is the gravest threat to freedom that we have faced in my lifetime. Now, I'm 47 years old, and we've faced a lot of grave threats to freedom in my lifetime. George McGovern comes to mind. But compared to Barack Obama, George McGovern was a patriot and a war hero. Other threats, John Kerry. Well, none the less than the National Journal, the most nonpartisan of Washington officials, adjudged Barack Obama a more liberal United States senator than John Kerry. In fact, not only did they say he was more liberal than John Kerry, he's more liberal than Hillary Clinton, he's more liberal, according to his voting record, than Ted Kennedy. There was not one other United States senator that was more liberal in terms of raw voting record than Barack Obama. The Democrats have nominated the most liberal candidate they could find. And how did he become liberal? Well, when I decided to write a book about Barack Obama, I decided I am not going to listen to the stereotypes. I am going to do a lot of independent research. And so I closeted myself away for a good many months and did exhaustive research about Barack Obama. Interestingly enough, my wife and I, we actually traveled to Hawaii to visit the private school that he went to and to go to the hospital where he was born. And we traveled around the country seeking out people who knew Barack Obama because we wanted to find out who was this man. Because he really appeared onto the stage with very little foreknowledge. 2-3 years ago, most of us in this room probably wouldn't even have known that a Barack Obama existed. So who was he? Who was he? Well, I found out some very interesting things. First of all, his mother, an interesting name, her name was Stanley, named after her father. Her middle name was Ann, so they called her Ann, but her name was actually Stanley Dunham. And she has local roots too, just like Mary Beth and I. She graduated from Mercer Island High School. But if you look at her family, it's quite an interesting tale. What you'll find out is that the reason her family moved here from Kansas was because they felt uncomfortable with the conservative nature of the Kansas environment. In fact, ironically, Barack Obama now runs around the country and says, I was raised with the Kansas heartland values. I don't even know if he ever went to Kansas. His mother surely didn't grow up in Kansas. And his grandparents came out here so they could attend the Universalist Church in Bellevue, which at the time was known as one of the most liberal churches in America and was a hotbed of Marxist activity. Mercer Island High School in the 1950s, when she attended high school there, was known as a hotbed of Marxist activity. And at least 4 teachers there were uncovered to be a communist cell during the 1950s, Mercer Island High School. I mean, let's face it, we have a lot of radical liberals that have gravitated to Washington State. How do I know that? My grandfather was one of them. My grandfather was a wobbly. Anybody in this room know what a wobbly is? Yeah. International Workers of the World.
I'm a worker.
Seattle is the only city in America to have ever had a successful general strike. The only city in America where we've had a successful general strike. What's a successful general strike? Nobody works. Everybody's on strike. In fact, my grandfather decided to get out of the Wobblies when he was involved in a gun battle outside of Chehalis, Washington. So very radical, very violent, and as he told me growing up, a Marxist organization. as he told me firsthand, a communist-influenced organization. As he told me firsthand, we took our marching orders from Stalin. That's my grandfather's own personal firsthand testimony to me. I have reason to believe it. Well, that is, in fact, why the Dunhams moved to Washington State, so they could be part of this entire left-wing clique. Well, you know what? Washington wasn't quite liberal enough for them. So where did they head? They headed out of the country, out of the United States of America. They moved to Hawaii. And they moved there before statehood, when it wasn't a state. It was a territory at that time. And at that point, Ann Dunham decided to go to school, and she met a very attractive Kenyan national, and his name was Barack Obama. And Barack Obama was from a elite Kenyan family, a ruling family. In fact, his cousin is currently the Prime Minister of Kenya. But the distinctive of this family was that they were Marxists. His father was a Marxist. Now, how do I know that? Well, lo and behold, I grew up in an organization called Young Americans for Freedom. Any of you familiar with Young Americans for Freedom? Okay. Young Americans for Freedom, we spent the entire 60s battling the left. Well, in the early 1960s, this is before the Cuban Missile Crisis, there was an extremely large peace demonstration that was held in downtown Honolulu. Now, I'm telling you folks things you have never read, because this is a result of my independent research. Hasn't been published. Nobody knows about it. You'll learn about it. Others will learn about it when we actually publish this in my book. But it just so happened that the Honolulu chapter of the Young Americans for Freedom rallied against this huge communist rally that was held in Honolulu. And photographs were taken that day. And we were able to find a photograph of Barack Obama Sr., a Marxist, marching against the United States, marching for the overthrow of the United States with a group of Marxist leaders. This is the family that Barack Obama comes from. Now, if you read only one book besides my book about Barack Obama, I hope you will read his book, Dreams of My Father. Because his father was a terrible lout. Dropped him at age 2. Left the family, headed off to Harvard. That's where all good Marxists go. And when he headed off to Harvard basically dumped Barack Obama and his mother, Ann, he left his son devastated. And his son talks about in his book this entire lifetime of trying to dream about and learn about his father. But fundamentally, what I want everyone to understand is that from his father and from his mother, he adopted essentially a Marxist worldview. And he continues to hold that worldview till this very day. He's not a moderate Democrat. He's not a Bill Clinton. I mean, I wrote the first, quote, anti-Bill Clinton book. I wrote Slick Willie, Why America Cannot Trust Bill Clinton. It was the first Clinton bestseller. I like to say it's a book that spawned a genre, because after that there were so many anti-Clinton books that came following. But Bill Clinton was a patriotic American compared to Barack Obama, in my opinion.